They say a police dog can sense fear, danger, and even guilt, but sometimes they sense something else, innocence. That day when a little girl reached out her hand on a quiet city street, no one expected what would happen next. Not the officers, not the bystanders, not even Jason Statham himself. Because when his dog reacted, it wasn't just training, it was recognition. And the look on Jason's face, it said everything. Before we continue, I just want to take a moment to thank you for being here. Every single like, comment, and story you share means the world. It's what keeps this channel going and helps these stories reach more hearts around the world. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another story. Alright, now, let's get back to it. It was one of those quiet city mornings that felt almost too calm. The kind where the hum of traffic hadn't quite reached full volume yet, and the only sounds were footsteps and the distant chatter of people starting their day. Officer Jason Statham had been on the force long enough to know that peace like that never lasted. It was the kind of silence that usually broke just before something happened. He walked beside Max, his K9 partner, a sharp-eared German shepherd with the kind of discipline and intuition that made him more than just a dog. To Jason, Max was family. As they patrolled down a narrow residential street, Max's ears twitched, his pace slowed. Jason noticed immediately. "What is it, boy?" he asked softly. Max's eyes darted forward. That's when Jason saw her, a small girl, maybe 7 or 8, standing barefoot on the sidewalk. Her hair was messy, her face streaked with dirt, and she clutched a torn stuffed rabbit to her chest. She wasn't crying, but there was something about her expression, a quiet desperation that made Jason stop in his tracks. "Hey there," he said gently, kneeling a few feet away. "You okay, sweetheart? Where are your parents?" The girl didn't answer. She just stared at him, or rather at Max. Her eyes flicked between the dog's face and Jason's badge. Jason noticed her trembling hand move slightly. At first, he thought she was just nervous, until he realized she wasn't waving. She was signing. Her fingers moved slowly, hesitantly, like someone trying to remember a language they hadn't used in a while. Jason frowned. "Wait, are you?" Before he could finish, Max suddenly sat upright. His ears perked, his eyes locked on the girl. Jason looked down at his partner, Max. The dog's head tilted, and then, to Jason's shock, Max responded to the girl's gestures. Not with a bark, not with confusion, but with obedience. She signed something and Max nodded, tail wagging slightly. Jason blinked, stunned. "What the?" The girl stepped closer, her movements careful, her small hand trembling as she reached toward Max. The dog stayed perfectly still, then leaned forward to nuzzle her palm. It was gentle, familiar, almost rehearsed. Jason looked between them, his pulse picking up. "You know her, boy." The girl finally spoke. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Max." Jason's eyes widened. "How do you know his name?" She looked up at him, her lower lip quivering. "Because he used to be ours." Jason froze. For a moment he didn't say a word. The city noise faded, leaving only the sound of Max's soft breathing and the faint rustle of wind through the trees. "Yours?" Jason asked, voice low. "What do you mean?" The girl hesitated. "Before he was a police dog, before the man took him away." Jason blinked, stunned. He looked down at Max, the most disciplined, loyal dog in the precinct, and suddenly things started clicking. Max had always been different from the others. Obedient, yes, but there was something behind his eyes, a kind of sadness Jason could never explain. He had always assumed it came from his previous handler, but now. Jason knelt down again, keeping his tone gentle. "Sweetheart, what's your name?" She hesitated. "Lily." "That's a beautiful name," Jason said softly. "Can you tell me where your mom is, Lily?" Her eyes dropped. "She's gone." The words hit Jason like a gut punch. He didn't push further. Instead, he looked down at Max again, who hadn't moved an inch, his eyes fixed on Lily, his tail still wagging gently. "All right," Jason said, thinking quickly. "How about we go somewhere safe, yeah, somewhere warm, you can tell me more there." Lily didn't respond, but when Max took a step forward, she followed without hesitation. That's when Jason knew. The dog wasn't the only one who needed rescuing that morning. At the precinct, Jason sat Lily down with a blanket and a cup of cocoa. She held it in both hands, staring at the steam like it was the first warm thing she'd felt in days. Meanwhile, Jason spoke quietly with Captain Harris outside the observation window. "You're telling me this kid claims ownership of your K9?" Harris asked skeptically. Jason nodded. She didn't just recognize him. She signed to him and he responded. "I've never seen him react like that to anyone else." Harris frowned, flipping through a file. Max's adoption records list him as a rescue, picked up from an abandoned home 2 years ago. No mention of any previous owners. Jason crossed his arms. Maybe those records were wrong. Harris sighed. "You're getting too sentimental, Statham. Dogs don't remember like people do." Jason's eyes flicked to the glass. Inside, Max was sitting beside Lily's chair, close, but not too close, his gaze protective. "Tell that to him," Jason muttered. The captain followed his gaze, then rubbed his temple. "All right, you want to play detective on this one, go ahead, but don't let it interfere with your duties. We can't have you chasing fairy tales." Jason's lips tightened. Understood. He went back inside and sat across from Lily. "You said Max used to be yours," he began gently. "Can you tell me about that?" She nodded slowly. "We got him when I was 5. My mom found him by the train tracks. He was hurt. We took care of him." Jason leaned in. "And what happened after that?" Lily's voice trembled. "Mom got sick. We couldn't pay for her medicine. Then one day a man came. He said he'd take Max somewhere safe. He promised he'd come back, but he never did." Jason's jaw clenched. "Do you remember what he looked like?" She nodded faintly. "He had a black jacket and a badge." Jason froze. "A badge?" Lily nodded again, her eyes filling with tears. Something inside Jason twisted. He glanced at Max, the loyal K9 who had served the department without question, and now it all made sense. The fear in Lily's eyes, the recognition in Max's reaction. Someone had taken this dog from her, and not legally. Jason's mind started racing. If someone inside the system had taken Max, there had to be a paper trail, adoption files, transfers, something, and he was going to find it. That night, after the precinct quieted down, Jason stayed behind. The hum of fluorescent lights filled the empty hall as he sifted through digital records. Every K9 adoption, every handler assignment, every transfer, all logged neatly in the system, until he found something strange. Max's adoption record had been modified twice. The first entry listed owner, private household. The address was redacted. The second entry, the one currently on file, was updated by an officer's ID code. Jason recognized it immediately. Sergeant Doyle. Jason's stomach dropped. Doyle was one of the department's oldest handlers, tough, respected, but with a reputation for cutting corners when it suited him. Jason leaned back, rubbing his jaw. "What the hell did you do, Doyle?" He didn't have time to think much longer, because right then, Max, resting by his desk, suddenly lifted his head and growled. Jason looked up. "What is it, boy?" The dog's eyes were locked on the hallway door. A second later, it creaked open. Sergeant Doyle stepped in. "Well, well," Doyle said with a smirk. "Could have guessed I'd find you snooping around after hours." Jason stood slowly. "You want to tell me why your ID is on Max's old adoption record?" Doyle chuckled. "You really don't know when to drop things, do you, Statham?" Jason's eyes narrowed. "She's a child, Doyle. You stole her dog." Doyle shrugged. "Stole? No, I rescued him. Kid's mother was dying, their place was condemned, the dog would have been put down. I gave him a purpose." Jason's voice hardened. "You gave yourself a trophy." Doyle's grin faded. "Watch it." "Why change the records?" Jason pressed. "Why hide the fact that he had a family?" Doyle's tone turned cold. "Because that family doesn't exist anymore. The mother's gone and the kid was in foster care until she ran away. Nobody was supposed to find her." Jason's blood ran cold. "And what if I did?" Doyle stepped closer, his jaw tightening. "Then you'll understand why some things are better left buried." Max growled again, stepping between them. His fur bristled, teeth bared. Jason's eyes never left Doyle's. "You can threaten me all you want, but if you laid a hand on that girl or used this dog for your own gain, I'll see to it personally that you never wear that badge again." Doyle's lip curled. "You're making a mistake, Statham." Jason didn't blink. "No, you did." Doyle glared for a moment longer, then turned and stormed out. Max stayed tense until the sound of Doyle's footsteps disappeared down the hall. Jason knelt and placed a hand on the dog's neck. "Easy, boy, we'll fix this, I promise." Later that night, Jason sat in his car outside the foster center, watching as Lily slept inside. He couldn't shake Doyle's words. Nobody was supposed to find her. Something told him this went deeper than a stolen dog. And when Max suddenly lifted his head and let out a low, uneasy whine, Jason knew someone else was watching too. Jason didn't sleep that night. The image of Lily clutching Max's fur, whispering his name like a memory she'd been holding onto for years, kept looping in his mind. Something wasn't right. Doyle wasn't just an unethical officer. Jason could feel it in his gut. There was something rotten beneath the surface. By morning, Jason was already digging deeper. He wasn't supposed to. This wasn't part of any sanctioned investigation. But when a little girl shows up claiming your police dog used to be hers, and your instincts scream that it's true, you don't wait for permission. He started with the old case files, reports from the time Max was supposedly rescued, and that's when he found it. The incident report was missing a page. Jason's pulse quickened. In law enforcement, missing pages meant one of two things: sloppy paperwork or deliberate concealment. And Doyle, he wasn't sloppy. Jason glanced at the date, June 14, 2 years ago. That same day, according to hospital records, Lily's mother, Ellen Moore, had passed away. He stared at the name for a long time. Something about it felt familiar. Then it hit him. He'd seen it once before, on a list of wrongful eviction cases filed against the city. Jason leaned back, exhaling slowly. "Oh, Doyle, what the hell have you done?" That afternoon, he paid a visit to the city records office. The clerk, an older woman with half-moon glasses, frowned when she saw the file number. "That's an old one," she said, typing slowly. "The Moore eviction case was closed. The landlord was cleared. Family assets were repossessed." Jason nodded. "By whom?" She scrolled down the screen, then squinted. Property was transferred to a holding company, Silverstone Developments." Jason's chest tightened. He knew that name. It was the company Doyle's brother ran. He didn't need more proof, but he wasn't stopping there. By evening, Jason was parked outside Doyle's house. His knuckles tapped the steering wheel impatiently as he waited. He knew it was risky. He wasn't supposed to conduct personal stakeouts, especially not against another officer. But after what he'd uncovered, there was no turning back. The porch light flicked on. Doyle stepped out, talking on the phone. Jason could hear fragments of the conversation through his open window. "No, she's a kid. Doesn't matter if she remembers. I'll take care of it." Jason's grip tightened on the wheel. He didn't move, not yet. He needed evidence, not emotion. But Max was restless in the back seat. His ears perked, his body tense. He was watching Doyle too, and Jason could see it in the dog's eyes. He remembered him. "Easy, boy," Jason whispered. "We'll do this right." Still, Max's low growl echoed in the confined space. The next day, Jason requested access to Max's old training footage from the Academy archives, just to verify something. As the grainy video played, Jason watched a familiar figure step into the frame: Sergeant Doyle, younger but with the same arrogance, training Max with unnecessary aggression. But then, in one short clip, Jason saw something else. The dog was tied to a fence, trembling, while a small child's voice called out faintly from behind the camera. "Max, it's okay, I'm here." Lily's voice. Jason froze. The footage was dated 2 days before the official report said Max was rescued. That was it. Proof that Doyle had fabricated the story, that he'd taken Max by force and erased the family's existence in the system. Jason shut the laptop and stood, his heart hammering. He knew what he had to do. He picked up Lily from the foster center later that afternoon. She looked small in her oversized sweater, eyes downcast as she held Max's leash. "Hey," Jason said softly, crouching beside her. "I need you to be brave, okay? We're going to fix this." She looked up at him, uncertain. "You believe me?" Jason smiled faintly. "I believe both of you." Max barked softly, tail wagging once as if to seal the promise. They drove to a quiet part of town, the old neighborhood where Lily used to live. Most of the houses had been abandoned or torn down, but hers was still standing, boarded up and forgotten. Jason got out and helped her onto the sidewalk. Lily clutched Max's leash tightly. "This was our house," she said quietly. Jason looked around. "Do you remember anyone who came here the day they took Max?" She nodded slowly. "The man with the badge, he yelled at Mom. She tried to stop him, then she fell." Jason swallowed hard. Fell. Lily's eyes welled up. Down the steps, she didn't wake up after that. Jason felt a chill crawl up his spine. That wasn't an accident, that was an assault. He pulled out his phone and snapped photos of the old house, noting the condition, the broken railings, the unfiled safety hazards. Every bit of evidence mattered now. But what happened next, neither of them saw coming. A black SUV rolled up the street slowly, windows tinted. Jason's instincts went on high alert. "Lily, get behind me," he said calmly, placing a hand on his sidearm. Max immediately moved in front of the girl, his muscles stiff and ready. The SUV stopped, the door opened. Sergeant Doyle stepped out. "Statham," he called out, voice hard, "you need to stop this, right now." Jason didn't move. "You followed me." Doyle sneered. "You're making this a hell of a lot worse for yourself. That kid's lying. You're putting your career on the line for a runaway and a mutt." Jason took a slow step forward. "Funny, because the mutt remembers you, and so does the girl, and guess what? I found the missing footage." For the first time, Doyle's face faltered. "You don't know what you're talking about." Jason's tone hardened. "I know enough. You covered up an illegal seizure. You assaulted her mother. You falsified records and sold her home through your brother's company." Doyle's jaw clenched. "Careful, Statham, that's a big accusation." Jason smirked. "Yeah, big enough to end your career." The air between them thickened with tension. Doyle's hand twitched near his holster, but before he could say another word, Max barked loud, commanding. Lily, without hesitation, signed a gesture, one Jason had seen her use before. Max responded instantly. He lunged forward, teeth bared, stopping just inches from Doyle. Doyle froze. Jason stepped closer, his voice calm but cutting. "You trained him with cruelty. She trained him with love. That's why he listens to her, not you." Doyle's face twisted with rage. "You're done, Statham." Jason shook his head. "No, Doyle, you are." He pulled out his phone and hit play on the video, the clip showing Doyle yanking Max by the collar while Lily cried off camera. The audio echoed through the quiet street. Within seconds, a second car arrived, Captain Harris's cruiser. Jason had called for backup before coming. Harris stepped out, eyes cold. "Doyle, you're under investigation." For a moment, Doyle looked like he might run. But one look at Max, still standing firm, still guarding the girl he loved, and he froze. He raised his hand slowly. "This isn't over." Jason exhaled, tension finally breaking. "Yeah," he said quietly, "it is." Hours later, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Jason walked Lily back to the precinct. The chaos had settled and Doyle was in custody. Lily sat on the bench outside, Max's head resting on her lap. "Will he have to go away again?" she asked quietly. Jason smiled faintly. "No, not this time." She hesitated. "Can he stay with me?" Jason looked at Max, then back at her. "I think he already decided that." She giggled softly, hugging the dog's neck. Jason watched them for a long moment, a rare warmth filling his chest. For the first time in years, he wasn't just doing his job, he was doing what was right. And as he turned to head back inside, Max lifted his head, eyes meeting Jason's with silent gratitude. Sometimes heroes don't wear badges or capes. Sometimes they have fur, a wagging tail, and a memory that refuses to forget love.